their defense right now is becoming a serious problem.
Got 3 AHL guys in the lineup tonight.
And you know, you rewind the clock back to last year, entering December. It's almost very similar the way they entered the month of December, where they were missing Rielly, Muzzin, and I believe Brodie at one time too, weren't they?
All hurt at the same time.
Their top pairing was Giordano and Hall, and you know they won I think 5 out of 7 games with that. They had Mac Hollowell playing games for them, and now you look at their defense now with Giordano being out, and you know Giordano's been a warrior for this team since he's been here, and even this year, you know, expecting a 40-year-old to play as much as he has so far this season, I think you've been sort of getting more than advertised or more than expected from Mark Giordano. But now, like, do the Maple Leafs have any room for error considering where they are in the standings to allow this group of defense to basically sort itself out? Because if it doesn't, AK and Frankie, where are we talking about the Maple Leafs being in a week, 10 days from now?
Yeah, I would say they are going to have a little margin for error, because when you look at the teams that are behind, so it is Detroit and Tampa right now in the wild card spots, because Toronto's got a game in hand, and that game in hand will be tonight against Seattle. It's Philly, it's the Islanders, it's the Sabres. You're probably not that concerned about
Ottawa.
Those teams.
Still, they're not done yet.
Ottawa just hasn't played as many games, but they're not playing well either. So I would say, you're not as concerned with teams like that because you think they're going to fall back.
But the Devils and the Penguins right now are in the same position as the Maple Leafs. Those are the two teams that everyone thought the Devils would be much better. I think the Penguins can be better. So I just think it's one of those things for the Leafs right now. They're playing so many games where the margin for error is very slim. And it's like, who's going to make the last mistake in that game? That team is going to lose that game. And it's difficult to play those games night after night after night. Like tonight would be a great night for them to take control of the game, get off to a lead, lock it down, play a neat and tidy, efficient game where the star players take over and the goalie makes some saves. And you say, like, that's a trademark of our team right there. That's exactly what a really good game from our team should look like from start to finish.
And I think we're in a spot, guys, where everybody who covers the Toronto Maple Leafs, who plays for the Toronto Maple Leafs, who coaches, who manages for the Toronto Maple Leafs, knows what's going on. Like, it's clear at this very moment they are not a Stanley Cup contender, what they aspire to be. But then I look back at last year and I consider just how drastic the change was before to after the trade deadline. They brought in 3 new defensemen who played for them. McCabe and Shen and Gustafsson. Would I be surprised at all if the same thing happened this year with Brad Treliving bringing in a brand new defense corps?
It's going to happen.
It's going to happen.
It is going to happen. One more defenseman injury from complete chaos.
Well, I agree. And you think about the guys who are getting hurt, Liljegren and Giordano and John Klingberg, who we'll probably never see again. They're fortunate that Morgan Rielly's been able to play like seemingly 27, 28 minutes night after night.
He's been excellent.
He's been outstanding. And TJ Brodie's had a really nice bounce back year as well. So those guys are really bearing a significant load early on in the season. Now, the ramifications on the long term, what that'll mean for Rielly in March as to what he's doing in November remain to be seen. It's not ideal for Morgan Rielly to be playing 30 minutes in a mid-November game.
That's going to catch up to them.
You would imagine it would. And Morgan Rielly, still a stud, but he's not a spring chicken. He's played a lot of hockey already. He's still a young guy, but at the same time, I think the Maple Leafs would love to kind of ease a little bit off those guys.
Yeah.
Unfortunately for them, there's no luxury of that because they don't have any guys that they can slide in right now because of the injuries.
And it's not even Morgan Rielly because you look at Matthews and Marner, those guys are playing 21, 22 minutes a night. It was the game against the Penguins where they went 11-7. William Nylander had to play 26 minutes that night. So, like, it's going to take its toll on these guys. Like, there was one game against the Canucks at home where I think Matthews and Marner played a shade over 16 minutes. And I was at the game with Taddy, and we're saying, man, that must be nice for those guys where they could kind of mentally check out of the game. It's done. It's won. It's under control. And they don't get too many nights like that. But I don't know. At some point, there's going to be a defenseman or maybe 2 coming to this team. There just has to be. And I would imagine there's a lot of urgency to get that kind of maneuver done. And if I'm the Leafs, I'm trying to make that move as soon as possible. Why not?
So, Frankie, if you're the Leafs right now, and you're Sheldon Keefe or you're Mike Van Ryn who runs the defense, do you maybe split up Rielly and Brodie? Because I'm looking at their defense core right now, like the projected 6 they got going tonight. It's Rielly, Brodie, Ligason, McCabe, Benoit, Timmins, and Lajoie is the guy they called up from the American League. And I know Rielly and Brodie are going to be asked to play a lot of those hard minutes, but it gets really thin after Jake McCabe.
Haven't you been
second
in
pairing.
games like that? You must have been in games like that over your career where there's a couple guys called up. Maybe there's 3 guys called up, and you just know the guys on the top pair are going to filter in and take one of those guys on the bottom pair every once in a while for a spin. Like, it's not going to be your typical.
But then that's
1,
more
2,
increased
3
minutes
rotation.
for the big boys.
That's the nature of it. Like, that's why there's got to be some urgency here as far as filling some holes, and maybe not even filling holes, but like getting players that help put you over the top as far as what you are as a team and a decor.
So that's definitely a part of it for sure. The Maple Leafs' lack of depth in the back end has become very, very apparent in lieu of all the injuries. But then again, we've talked a lot about Mitch Marner and Austin Matthews. Those guys have been separated. We expect that to happen again tonight.